climax to the end. I mean, that music was going, but still had like 3 more minutes. But it was escalating. It kept going up and up, and I'm like, this sounds good. But anyway, glad to see everybody here. I love this time of year. Holidays are among us.
So when you get presents?
Do we get presents?
I said it's when you get your presents.
When we get I don't know, when you're around, we all get presents.
Right? That's true. It's a treat this morning.
Let's just call a spade, right? Just get started off. Victories, wins.
Looks like I'm going to get 4 new recruits from one company just because Ruby forced me to call.
Woo! Good job, Ruby. He had nothing to do with it. Way to go, Ruby! Way to go, Ruby! That's awesome. No, I believe that.
Stuff, huh?
That's awesome.
Yes.
Good job.
So I think about the idea of, was it a coincidence or were you led, is a statement I think about. Tony Robbins often asks that. And yesterday I was out in the parking lot and I came in probably, I don't know, about 8:45 or 9. And I got out of my car and I hear, Alma! Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in months. Man, I've been thinking about you for days. I'm like, man, if I hear another person say they had a dream about me. So and it was one of our agents here who has been mediocre at best most of his career. He's been here for well over 10 years and just hasn't gotten to the pinnacle of where he wants to be. And from that moment forth, we took 3 hours of time and had a kind of a guidance session where we just went through his goals, his dreams, his desires, his wants, his needs, his fears, his uncomfortable state that he keeps himself in. And it was fascinating to see him unlock some of that crap that he's just shoved inside of himself and pretended that he couldn't do it because he wasn't doing it, and pretended that it wasn't possible because he didn't try. And he's never gotten to a level that he was proud of. He's never gotten an award of anything, of any significance that he felt was significance. And before we left, he turned around and he said, wait, I was already in my car, I rolled down my window, he said, wait, is it wrong if I just want to turn a few heads? And I said, no, that's noble, because what does that do for you and your family? What does that do for your future and your kids? You need to turn heads everywhere you go, my friend. And you need to make people say, what the hell? Where did this guy come from? It was an amazing experience.
Love that.
That's awesome.
That was great. Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So I wondered too.
I don't think anybody can follow that.
It's going to be tough. I agree. No pressure.
So I've been thinking about the daily message from a few days ago about when you grip a golf club extremely tight, you shank it, or when you grip a baseball extremely hard, you usually can't throw it as fast, or you can't get the trajectory angle that you want. And I think I'll speak for myself, but I think for newer agents like myself, we try so hard at really making this the business we want and achieving our goals, that sometimes letting loose and just chilling out a little bit and being consistent and working hard is better in the long run.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful for that daily message, because I know for the first 4 months I was just so intense and I was like, what is going on and everything, and then as I just kind of like relaxed and said, just believe in yourself and know that it'll work out if you work hard. It's been better for me.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thought to sell over 2 hands. Okay. That is a great start for this morning. Thank you, guys. Those are incredible insights for us. Couple things before we get into the message, just as some reminders. So today is whenever the email, I want to say it's going to be at 10 o'clock. Make sure you're going to get an email that allows you to register for the awards luncheon that'll be in December. It's the Salt Lake Board awards luncheon that'll be there. This year it's going to be held at the Grand America instead of Little America. They have it every year, but usually it is sold out, and it's sold out in an hour, and it's free of charge. It's not your dues pay for this, but it gets filled up every single time. So this year they're having it at the Grand America because they can accommodate 500 more seats. So it may not get sold out this time, I don't know, but just take advantage of it. It's something that you'll want to attend. Couple of insights before we get into the thing is, first off, I want to talk about Alma, and if one more person tells him that they haven't seen it for 3 months, so we want to just talk about this whole thing, exactly what's here. No, I'm just kidding. Couple of things. So had the little bit of housekeeping items. Some people have come up to me on for a couple of things. One of which we've had. How many of you have your broker's license?
I'm almost there.
You're almost there. Okay. Well, this will hit more hard for you. How many intend to get their broker's license once they're eligible?
I'm in process.
Okay. Well, what I'm finding right now is the division is taking more of an active approach in verifying that the business that you have done is actually business that you have done. For example, if you guys don't know, it requires a certain amount of transactions which equate to a certain amount of points. It's 60 points that it takes to get your license. We had an agent that 29 of the transactions that they submitted, the division requested the paperwork to validate those transactions. Now, the first thing that came to mind, you may not be like, no big deal, I've got the transactions and it's not there. My thing is, they may be looking at the transactions that are there, but are also they looking at how the transactions were done. And the first thing that comes to my mind, because they're asking for the agency agreements, is if your agency agreement is being signed before you write up an offer.
Wow.
Because if it has not been, and you're now submitting these offers, you're going to be receiving a violation from the division. I guarantee it'll happen. I haven't seen that because it's just we've had 3 people that have tried to get their broker's license. I say try. They're in the process of getting the broker's license. They submit all the paperwork, and the division has asked for files. And I'm checking, make sure I hope those files that they're submitting, they're in good order. I'm telling you, you might not think it's a big deal. It will be a big deal. So
I just want to make sure that I understand. So you're saying that because people drew up an offer and then later down the road they got an agreement signed? Agency agreement?
Because the statute requires, before any written offer is done, agency must be established.
Right.
So yes, you write up an offer first, and then you get the agency agreement signed the next day, next week,
That's what I
upon closing, which has happened many times. That will be a big deal.
So that's actually a really good thing for us.
Yeah,
because
'cause now we
it
can-
enables us to tell our clients, hey, I can't do a thing until this is signed
Yeah.
legally. Otherwise, I get hit.
Never have been able to do that.
Yeah, that's
And
a
I'm just,
great-
it's this. So I'm saying this as reminders. I get it all the time. People are upset at me because they're waiting for the check because they haven't done the paperwork. And I'm like, look, this isn't me trying to prevent you from getting money. This is me trying to help you keep a license. I mean, in fact, doing what's right. So this particular example that came up was a good reminder for me to convey it to everybody else to say, look, I don't know how they may find out about stuff. We never know when they ask for files, but this one, for those of you that are looking for that avenue, as long as you're fine. And the person that had to provide 29 files.
I had to provide all of mine.
Okay.
Every single
Here's one. Okay.
I think because mine was 3 years and 2 months, they were probably did you really do that amount of business? But I had to submit all of it. It was 700 pages.
Okay.
Not the entire thing.
I didn't realize you had. I knew that you had to submit some of them. So.
Girl, you should have been Rookie of the Year.
Every single one.
Okay. Well, so here. Great evidence is. I'm not just making this up. This is truly happening. Here's the evidence. So that one's just kind of a nugget. If you have been doing some things a little bit differently, start today. You can't do anything about the past. Start today. Make sure you're doing it the right way, and you don't have to worry about it. So that was one little nugget. The next two things is, I touched on this briefly, a couple of changes that are going to be happening. They talked about this at the NAR in San Francisco just last week. Code of Ethics class, instead of it being every 2 years, is going to go to every 3 years. So that will be a change that'll happen. I don't know how they're going to roll that out. My assumption would be once you've done that 2-year requirement, then your next up will be 3 years. I don't know what that'll happen.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'm getting the incense going to be coming in. We're just
Just close your eyes and listen.
Do you want to know so odd? I must have been so in the zone. I didn't even recognize that until I heard sorry. I'm like, what is she apologizing for? I didn't even pay attention to it. Yeah. It's in the zone. But there is one class that is rolling out. It's a 3-hour mandatory class that every licensee will have to take. I think that will be every 2 years, but it starts in 2020. So I know my license, for example, needs to be renewed at the end of January. It was a class that was taught at the UAR, so I already took it. But for those of you that might be in that same situation, I know myself and Russ were getting approved to be able to teach that. So we'll be teaching it here, but if your license is due in January and you have not had this class, you'll definitely be one that you need to make sure that happens to be able to renew.
When is that class going to be taught?
Is soon. We've got to be able to get it. If it's not going to be, if we don't get approved yet, then you would have to find it somewhere else that'll be taught at the board. As of right now, we don't know. As soon as we get authorized, then we'll make sure that we have it taught each month.
What's the class subject?
It's basically like a code of it talks about how the contract's being done. A lot of the stuff we're already doing in our peak agent training. I mean, half the class is going over the REPSI, just making sure that stuff's been done. They're just finding out. They developed this because they found out a lot of people were not doing some basic stuff. So it's good information. It just makes sure that it's all there. Yeah.
I heard something about ZAP going away.
Different topic, different subject. We'll talk about that later. So I don't have all the information to be able to provide it for you, so don't even want to go. And then one last thing is, same thing, the division is switching over from part of their systems. You know, like right now, if let's just say I were to file bankruptcy, I'd have 10 days that I have to notify the division of something like that. Well, they're linking up their system, linking it to the FBI's RAP-PAC system, dealing with fingerprinting and stuff like that. So because of that, one of the advantages, once we do the fingerprinting, we won't have to supply these 10-day notices if something happens. Anyway, that is also going into effect in 2020. So whenever your license is due, you have to go get fingerprinted. And it will be available, I think you can't do it like if my license was due in June, come January, I'm gonna go get fingerprinted. You can't do that because it'll only store the information if your license is ready to activate or renew within 45 to 60 days of that date. So do it basically the month before your license will renew, so you don't have to go down and do it twice. But they're going to be providing once a month, at least, like at the Salt Lake board. So I know January 6th is the first day it will be available at the Salt Lake board for anyone that has their license. It'll be done. So, sorry, little housekeeping things, but believe it or not, those are some vital stuff. But that being said, I do want to jump into a couple things that we're focusing in. How many of you actively practice visualization? Okay. Tell me some things you guys do. What, Matt?
Okay. This sounds funny, but I actually sit in my car for like 5 or 10 minutes every morning, and I picture myself rolling up in the car I want, getting out of the car, looking fit the way I want, and visualize my schedule the way I want it when I'm producing at a much higher level.
Love that. I love it.
So what kind of carnival?
It actually changes every morning, but
Depends on what I
costs
saw.
40 up
New
here.
model comes out. He's like, okay, that's what I'm thinking about now.
You can change that every morning.
All right. I love it. That's great. Didn't you raise your hand? I thought you were.
Oh yeah, sure. So I vision board in my room at home, and so every morning I sit on my bed and stare at that, and from my yearly visions, I look at each picture for probably 20, 30 seconds and see myself in that moment. And then before I go to bed at night, same thing, 2 times a day.
Okay.
Beautiful.
That's great.
That's exactly what that vision board is supposed to be right there. Exactly that.
Evan.
I do something similar to that, but I put in a music thing into my ears, and I focus in on each one of those pictures for about a minute each, and then until I drill it into my head. And then I also have some sayings in some of those pictures to what I repeat and affirm, just like what I do here, how the repeating affirms.
Love that. Awesome.
And so I drill it into my head by the music and by the visual, and I also put a mirror in front of me while I try to picture myself having that stuff.
Okay.
14 minutes and 33 seconds a day I meditate. I go in through all my gratitudes, usually got 3 at a time, and then I identify 3 things that I want to happen, and then I visualize those things happening in my business and what it feels like to have had that happen in my life, and then I celebrate the victory of those items with music and dance or whatever I'm compelled to do.
All right.
Yeah. Morning
Now.
awakening, every morning.
Okay.
Nice fancy shoes.
Is that like a Tony Robbins, like 14-minute thing?
Yep. Yep, it's a morning priming by Tony. If you guys want to do that, I highly recommend it. It's on YouTube under Tony Robbins priming. There's several of them. One's 19 minutes and 33 seconds. One's 14 minutes and 33 seconds. So.
How many of you have to raise your hand at this point, but when you go up to a listing appointment, when you're about to meet a buyer, how many of you guys visualize what's going to happen? Okay? This is where I want you to think about when this happens, is how prepared are we when we go into this stuff? So visualizing, yes, I'm going to take this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But I want you to, how much do you visualize the pros and the cons? Meaning, do you visualize, what to expect? And I say good or bad. And the reason why I say that, if you're only focused on one avenue, when something doesn't go as you plan, how are you going to be able to handle it? I wrote down a couple of questions. This was the other one. Is, do you plan what you want to happen, and then also plan what you don't want to happen? Let's talk about preparation. Just 1 second here. Is if we're only focused on, it's kind of the same thing when you're practicing scripts. You're practicing the script. If you practice the same objection every single time, all of a sudden when somebody throws a curveball at you, you don't know what to do. But it's the same thing when you're visualizing. Hey, it's fine to go in there. I will take this listing. I will take this listing. I will take this listing. And so you're mentally preparing that I'm going to take this listing, because now when something doesn't go awry, you've prepared yourself. I will take this listing. Okay, that's part of the process of taking the listing when it doesn't go as planned. But now, if you were to think, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen when you go in a listing presentation? Whatever comes to mind. So you now plan for what if that happened? How will I prepare? How will I react in that position, in that situation? What will I do? So that if something does happen that's something that's similar to that, you're already prepared how you're going to respond in that type of situation. And what's even better, you plan for the worst, all of a sudden something Wasn't bad at all. Ends up walking out of there, that listening presentation was simple. 10 times better than I expected it to be. Because you planned for things that could have happened but didn't. And it turned out better than you had hoped it would be. I want you to see this real quick.
You want me to drop the screen?
Yeah, please.
Well, how are you doing? Yes, even up.
It's like in church.
He's like, what?
Am I the one that's doing
Oh. It's talking about preparation and visualizing. And the power of what it does. We're going to watch something real quick. And then I'm going to tell you a little more detail about it. Some of you may have heard of this guy or seen this guy before.
He's my man crush.
Man, oh goodness. It's full volume.
It's a human fish.
First time he's ever been in the lead. I want you to watch him and see if you see anything from what he's doing, or does he appear to be pretty consistent? He's the one in the lead. Did anyone see anything that stood out?
Yeah.
What?
Michael Phelps had his head forward, and one of them turned their head to the side to see where Michael Phelps was.
Okay, so he kept his eye on the prize.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. Just try to get rid
That
of
was
this.
my thought. Just complete focus, like absolute laser focus on where you were going.
Okay, I agree with that.
I read about it. I didn't see it, but is this?
If you want to okay, I already told where you're going. That's not what I asked you to do. I asked you to see what did you see.
Isn't that what you're supposed
Follow instruction. What did you see, not what you heard.
Just say it as if you saw it. Don't say it like you read it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
exactly. I know where you're going, so no, you can't say anything right now.
So, at first I couldn't tell where Phelps was,
Okay.
except for when they dove. But from what I saw, he wasn't in the lead from the entire get-go, right from the very first lap.
He was pretty much at
Like neck and neck, but it wasn't necessarily.
yeah. He didn't have an outright lead the entire time. He got out to a pretty good start.
Yeah, from my perspective, it was like I saw somebody else and I thought maybe they were gonna win, right? And then he was just.
Everyone did fade off
Everybody
more
else-
and more,
yeah,
absolutely,
else
as he
fade
was
off,
getting.
and he was just consistent. It seems like his strokes were just I was watching everybody else, and it seemed like they just weren't as clean, as consistent.
They were getting tired, running
Yeah.
more tired over time,
Yeah.
and he just continued. I agree with that.
I think his preparation beat out everybody else because as the race went on, his lead increased and people started just falling back
Fade off.
slowly.
Okay.
It was almost as if he was getting stronger with every stroke, you know. Maybe
Okay.
it was. Maybe it was that everybody was fading out after each stroke, but he looked stronger.
Yeah,
He looked dominant to the very end, absolutely.
I think when people try to win at the beginning, they don't have the stamina. So they're trying to get in front of him just at the start, and they don't have any vision for what the end of the race looks like. And so they're just trying to be in front of him early on, but he's not trying to be in front of other people early on. He's just trying to have the
He's trying to have his
consistent
race.
stamina to have the same energy throughout, versus them expending all their energy in the beginning.
He's thought out his race well enough that he doesn't have to worry about other people. Run my race, and I'll win.
Well, it's, there were guys at the end that were really trying to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, in track meet where you're kind of pace yourself the first few laps and then you're trying to sprint that last part. That's what I saw some of those guys trying to do, where he paced himself at his pace kind of the whole way. He was slowing down, he wasn't speeding up, he was, consistently moving ahead. I didn't see him really increase his speed.
Okay?
So in auto racing, which I like to do, we always say, don't race the guy next to you, just drive the car. And really in this perspective, he wasn't racing the people next to him, he was driving his car. He was
Okay.
driving himself, and that was
Okay.
it.
Now, Chris, I'm going to let you say what I think
Yeah.
you were about to just
In
completely
one hour,
unfold.
This is gonna be glorious.
Spoiler alert.
Now, I might be wrong,
Yeah.
maybe, but I
Yeah.
believe you're about to say what I was trying to hold off on.
Is this where his goggles or his
Okay.
gear gets messed up?
Okay.
Like, in the race?
You had no idea. His goggles, the last half of the race, were filled with water.
That sucks.
I didn't see
I
that.
swam before for the Army, and that sucked.
He could not see at all what he was doing the last lap and a half. His goggles were filled with water. You had no idea. You saw at the end when he flipped the glass, just ripped the goggles off and hucked it. He couldn't see. He had to set a world record. Do you think he visualized what he needed to do to win the race?
Yep.
Do you think he was prepared, good or bad? What if something happened, what I need to do to win the race? Because for him, what would happen if something bad happened? He's going for, and yet it wasn't his first Olympic medal, but it was still an Olympic gold medal that he was racing for. He prepared for what could happen that was bad. And because he was prepared for something that was bad, it didn't cloud anything. It didn't stop him from succeeding on what he was trying to accomplish. How many of us are preparing what we should expect, what we shouldn't expect? So when that curveball is thrown our way, are we still able to hit it out of the park? Or do we just strike out?
This reminds me, I'll share how this applies to me on a daily basis, because I've identified over this last couple of weeks that, maybe the last 3 weeks, that some of my best days I come to work and I'm just like, I feel like I'm on top of the world. Like literally, I could see Ruby, I could see, somebody else in the office be like, how's it going? Like I'm just like a 10 out of 10. And sometimes those days are actually my worst days, because I come to work and so far the day I'm energetic, I'm excited, I expect high expectations for the day, but I'm only visualizing what I expect to be good from the day. And when a roadblock hits, or I run into somebody who's low energy or negative, all of a sudden I'm just like, you just ruined my perfect day. And I know that sounds silly, but it's true. That day.
They're laughing because we can can all relate to that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's it. It wasn't because they're laughing at you. They're
Yeah.
laughing like, that was me just about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but seriously though, it can throw me off, and then all of a sudden, like, what that day is, in my opinion, could go bad. And sometimes my worst days, where I'm like low energy, I'm just trying to salvage the day, and I identify, well, you know what, today's not gonna be perfect, but I'm gonna go through the motions. I'm gonna get into a better attitude. I'm gonna make something from this day. Sometimes those are my best days, and there's a couple lessons learned. When it's a bad day, you can turn it into a good day, but also when it's a good day, expect that you're going to hit roadblocks and how you're going to respond, like you're saying here. Yeah.
We're trying to be prepared.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes I look at those scenarios and the individuals that are in that pain that you come across, that are having the bad day. And what I always used to do is suck up their energy, their negative energy, and feel their pain and be painful myself. Now I'm looking for opportunities to be guided to them and to help them and to lift them up in some way. If I see somebody with their head down in the elevator, to lift them up with kind words or a gesture.
That's awesome.
You know, and I think that because of our environment here, because of this organization and its ability to lift ourselves, we need to spread that to those around us. We need to let them feel that light, because if we're not, how are we contributing other than to ourselves?
Right. This
Bring
is
that to
this is
them.
bigger than
Give
just
it to them.
each of us. This is bigger.
So I think we should look for people that are in that state. We should seek those that are down and bring them up, because if you're straight across from somebody, they can't look up to you, and you can't pull them up.
It's awesome.
We talk about our foundation all the time. Mindset is right there in the middle. You can put mindset anywhere, but mindset is the key element of what we do, the direction that it takes us. Where our mindset is going to be the driving force of where that success is going to lead us to. Are we prepared to be our best? Are we prepared for what may happen, what may not happen? The power of visualization. When you're walking into the listing appointment, working with a buyer, if we're showing up, you already know you're late, you're just flying your car to the appointment, you're out of breath, whatever it is, because you're running behind, because you're trying to make the schedule, you're not prepared. You're not setting yourself in that position to be at your best. Get there 5-10 minutes early, 14 minutes and 33 seconds early if you have to. And spend those 14 minutes and 33 seconds preparing to be your best. So that when you walk in, visualize what it's going to feel like when you have that paperwork signed. Visualize what it's going to feel like when you're able to tell that seller, we accomplished what you're trying to accomplish. We got the price that you're trying to get their home sold. You're now able to move on and accomplish your dream. Visualize what that's going to be like when you are in that situation. And all of a sudden, the success that you're going to have from taking that listing, from signing the buyer broker, is going to be monumental. Okay? You did
Just an identifier about Michael Phelps. If you don't know already, his routine is insane. So when Alma was talking about 14 minutes, 30 something seconds,
31.
obviously you can hear.
Oh.
So Dan just took it down 2 seconds for him, right? So, but these routines are what's going to build you up and bolster you up when you're talking about preparation, when bad things do happen, when you can continue through it. So it's literally, it is so important that once you visualize this, what process do I need to take, a routine do I need to have to build me up to get to this place? So.
Awesome. Did you?
Yeah, just real quick. I wanted to share my 2 cents on visualization because it's scientifically proven that our brain does not know the difference between visualizing success and achieving success. The same neurons fire in our brains whether you're visualizing it in your bedroom or whether you're actually receiving that gold medal from winning the race. The brain does not know the difference. And so that's why it's so important and so powerful to visualize what you're achieving and what you're going to accomplish at that listing appointment, because your brain already knows it if you visualized it correctly. And so that's why this topic is awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, to that note, one of the things that I've realized is that we need to celebrate our successes, whether it's our favorite song in the car, or we just scream out yes, 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 or however you celebrate to cause emotion for that success or that new listing you took or that buyer agreement that you signed. Because also, have you ever had a success where you get there and you go, oh shit, is that all it was? I did all that work, it took all that time, and that's all it was? And in reality, it's because you didn't celebrate it. So when you get there, make sure you make yourself celebrate that success. That's where the sweetness of that success lies, is in the celebration and in the moment of that achievement.
Because you don't forget that feeling.
You don't forget the feeling.
Okay.
You will never forget that.
We're gonna take this. We're all gonna stand up. We're gonna celebrate this day. We're gonna stand up.
Yeah!
We're gonna do three. No, we're gonna together. We're gonna do yes, yes. Okay. Loud voices. We want 5th floor to come up and scream at us for doing this.
You want the first floor to come up
Okay.
and scream at us.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yes! Okay. It's fun. Woo! There we go. Woo!
That was the secretary on the first floor.
That's not gonna do it. Gotta go clear 80s, right? Right. Okay, closing affirmations. I succeed because I have my goals. I'm an optimist. I like talking to new people. I know what is important to me. I remember good things. I have a daily plan I follow it. I'm passionate about real estate. I know what business is my greatest goal. I like asking my lunch with me. I go to reading to improve my sales skills. I thought to my goals and action results. I focus on my dream state. My reputation is powerful feeling. I improve my skills daily. I'm passionate. I love how I live to lead my business. I do my future well.